That's it for the line weight step. Next I'll begin lightly hatching in the basic shapes of the planes. I'm still using a 2B lead, but notice I've changed how I'm holding my pencil. I'm holding it further back for more hatching control. The upper eyelid is one plane. The eye socket and side of the nose are two separate planes. Can you see where they're defined? Here's one plane. But even though the shadow is connected, this area is actually a separate plane. There's actually a dark line right here that I'll put in also. And there's a hard line at the bottom of the iris. See that? I'll put down some paper so I don't smudge the right eye, and I'll move to the pupil next. Shade in the cast shadow from the eyelid as well. It's just as dark as the pupil, so think of it all as one shape. Give the iris a value as well. Remember, the eye socket and the side of the nose are different planes. The plane of the nose goes this way, while the plane of the eye socket is on this angle. This stage in the process is about building structure and dimension, so I want to define those angles by giving the plane for the side of the nose a lighter value. Can you see how depth is created by leaving this plane lighter? Don't shade the white part of the eyeball yet. The grain from the 2B lead is too big. Do that with an H lead. It'll be easier and it'll look much better with a harder lead. And don't start drawing in the eyebrow hair yet. Just shade in the outline with a medium value. It's fine to stick with a cross-hatching pattern to your shading. You won't be able to see any of these textures when we're done. I'll darken the hatching on the plane of the eyelid a little to help me see if everything looks right. Okay, that's a good coat of structural shading. Let's begin the other eye. I'll begin work on the eyebrow for no reason other than that it's at the top. Just fill it in with a flat value. Remember, you should be working along with me, pausing the video after each thing I do and repeating it, then continuing. You control the pace of this lesson. And move down to the next plane. We already established this one, created by the eye socket right here. I'm just defining these dark lines a little more. I'll shade in the pupil next. Just give the iris a light value. We'll go back in later with an H or B lead to define it some more and put in details. You can define this corner a little, but remember not to shade the white part of the eye. Leave it for later and do it with an H lead as well. Define the planes on the bottom and top eyelids with a little hatching as well. Notice the continuity of the highlights in the eyeball and the eyelid. This highlight is lined up with the lightest point of the eyelid and the lightest value on the skin below the eyebrow. It's important to be aware of the effects of lighting while you're drawing, especially when it comes to highlights, because they tend to all align with each other. And that's another tool you can use to make sure all of the features in your drawing are in harmony. Notice the eyebrow is darker on the left-hand side and has a highlight on the right, so I'm going to indicate that with another layer of hatching over the darker side. Now that my preliminary shading is in, and before I start shading in the values, I'm going to take a moment to stop, step back from my drawing, and see if it looks right overall. This is my last chance to make any adjustments to the line art before I begin building up the dark values. This is an important habit to get into, so please do the same with your drawing. For example, I think the shape of the pupil could be longer and less circular. I think this pupil could be longer as well. I'll put in the shadow with it because it's all one shape. This line could get a bit longer. It comes down to about here. That's good, but a little too dark. I'll just lighten it with my rubber eraser. And I'm going to use my sharpened eraser to raise this line up just a touch. See how that tiny adjustment made her look like she's smiling on that side of her face? That's the gesture we want. We've even caught that hint of mischief in her eye.